Hello, and welcome to Be Here Now, the Peaceful Empowerment Work Show. Presence, perspective, and peace. We are live on newstreamingnetwork.com, home of goingboldmedia.com, goingsolomedia.com, and WGSN-DB Going Solo Network Radio. I am your co-host, Judy Forder, and I am here with my co-host in peace, Miss
Janice Leonard.
Woo! Bring us in, Janice.
All right.
All right.
I don't know if you get
Drop
it, but
it
I
in.
get it right in my head. Just goes, whoa.
Thank you for choosing to be here now with us. Today, our topic is perfectionism. Why? Why do we do that to ourselves?
Oh,
Yes,
that's my biggest challenge. Definitely.
we have a lot to chat about today, but we're going to start off with our what's it mean to you? Excellent. Yeah. So, one of the biggest areas in my life where I have expected perfectionism is when I became a mother. So my meme for this week is perfect. For those of you that don't have the video, there's a picture of a young child, and it says, "Whenever I doubt myself as a mother, I whip out this picture of a 6-year-old coal miner smoking a pipe in 1910.
Oh my gosh.
Yes.
I remember seeing that one. I couldn't believe it.
Yeah. So, whenever I tell myself that I'm a terrible parent, I think of this picture and think, well, I could be worse.
Yeah.
Yes. Thank goodness, for the most part, I believe those days are over. There might be some of that still out there somewhere, but
Yeah.
not mine.
When you're trying to be perfect too, even as a parent, I don't look at other people personally. I just look at myself, and if I do look at people, I look at everyone that's great and what I think is great, and I always feel badly about that. But compared to letting my child smoke, and what else was in that picture?
The coal miner.
A coal mine.
Coal miner smoking a pipe.
Japers.
That's a lot.
Yep.
Alrighty. So moving on, let's see what Janice's meme of the week is.
Success ahead. Perfection is a roadblock to progress. This is, I believe, is a big part of my story. Definitely work-wise. I've liked to be perfect. I remember my father growing up. I played clarinet, loved it. Wanted to dare myself, my senior pops concert, to actually play the clarinet alone for a solo. And I played it. And after I played it, I did squeak, but I played it. It was successful. When I get in the car with my father, he says to me, "Oh, no intonation, huh?" So that's the kind of house I grew up in. I was brave enough to do this, but I didn't have a lot of intonation. So needless to say, there are a lot of things in my life that I didn't feel like I was quite good at. My sister, she is the most craftiest person. She sewed wedding dresses. She's like, the Wonder Girl. And so I never didn't even want to try it because, I could never be as good as her. I didn't have the same voice as her. She was great. She could play the guitar, and she was wonderful. So it's hard when you have an older sister or sibling or maybe younger too, didn't happen to me, who has that kind of talent and skill. Right. But working, it carried right over into work. And perfect example for me is it's been such a challenge since I left my last career job. And I've been working part-time here and there trying to figure out what I'm going to do. And I took a job bookkeeping. And it was fresh out of that bad experience. And I went in and I worked here before, so I know what I'm doing. I went in and I tried to do it, get it done, and do it right. And yeah, you can do it. But I kept making mistakes and forgetting this and forgetting that. And it just seemed like I got more mistakes and more mistakes. So it's like what would happen is I would start to be a failure, or what I saw as a failure, and I would get more anxious and I'd have more anxiety. And so I would make more mistakes. I think when I'm looking back on that period of time, I really have to say that I was my own roadblock because of my need to succeed. I mean, I was trying to look for something that I could feel good about, because that was always my career. And I, for the most part, did my jobs well and felt good about it. And I just needed that again. But since then, and maybe it's because I'm more aware, but I tell you, as soon as I get in a stressful situation, I make mistakes, I screw up. So now I'm part-time, so I can taste my jobs out. So I will not do my work if I'm feeling stressed out because I make mistakes. So that is like the story for me for my work experience, is because I can work. I have to be perfect. No, because my need to be perfect is really what's giving me my problems. And even like at work, you get so stressed out about something you didn't do right, or, oh my gosh, I remember the anxiety. My whole body is going, and I was like, oh my gosh, what am I going to do? And I try to beat them, like we talked a little bit about last week, is I try to beat them to the punch, tell them, I did this, or I'd have to then manage my imperfection. How could it be awful? What it did to me. And that anxiety, towards the end of my career job, I just lived in that anxiety. We ended up getting a new contractor coming in too, and I had some challenges with my supervisor, and then the new contractor came in, and I wasn't a match for that job with the new contractor. What they wanted from a person wasn't who I was.
Mm-hmm.
And I just felt, what's wrong with me? So you go through that whole thing. Why? I needed to be perfect. I needed to be the great Janice, and I wasn't anymore. Not that I wasn't, I was still great, but in my eyes, my need for perfection, it wasn't there. So that was really a challenge. And that when I saw that meme, I said, that's the one I'm showing this week because that's my problem.
So what I'm hearing is your desire to be perfect actually turned out to be the cock block.
Yes.
Feel
that's right. Yes. And it still is. It still is. And I have to always keep telling myself, who cares that if you're perfect or not? It's okay that you're not. It's okay that you're not. And I have to say that all the time. And especially because I'm more aware now and I'm not caught up maybe in the chaos 24/7, that I see that I'm doing it, and maybe I can step back, because I just remember from before, I was just had such anxiety, and I'm sure at the end I was seen as a very high anxiety person. So
right.
There you go.
So stop being your own cock block.
Yeah, I will stop being a cock block. And that's the goal. That's what I'm working on now. And remembering I'm not perfect, and it's okay that I'm not perfect, is big. And not only that, is when I can do it, is I'm not perfect and it's okay. It's really kind of, again, it just makes you feel okay. If you can really believe it and feel it, all of a sudden you're like, yeah, I don't have to be perfect. I don't have to be perfect.
Well,
it's nice.
We'll get into this later. Let's roll into good news.
Yes.
Some of our good news stories. I love it. I absolutely love it.
Oh, thank you.
Okay, let's move to the news desk, the good news desk of Janice. What are you reporting this week?
What am I recording this week? Let's see. I have mine's a good news update from Janice. I got it on YouTube because they wanted to credit the person, say please credit them. I couldn't find a name attached to it. but it was on YouTube, and it was a organization, whatever they call it. It's called Kindness is Free, and it's a story about this little girl, and her name is Holland, and there's permission to use the name and everything. When she was a baby, she and her mother or father brought her to the Waffle House, and that's where they'd go for breakfast. And they ended up having the same waitress all the time, or most of the time, and she was Mrs. Cynthia, their beloved waitress. And Cynthia was a great waitress, and she would know what the little girl's favorite treats were, raisin bread and apple juice, would make sure she had it and got her set up. And so they kind of got a connection, and it was nice. And in 1921, when the girl was 3 years old, Holland put her little tiny hands on Mrs. Cynthia's cheeks and asked her, "Mrs. Cynthia, I want to have dark skin like you. Why is your skin so dark?" Mrs. Cynthia scooped up the little girl and said, "Because God made everyone different." Isn't that wonderful? It was such a perfect answer to an innocent question.
Mm-hmm.
And it goes on to say, "Thank you, Mrs. Cynthia, for your big heart. Thank you to little Holland for your unconditional love." That is especially, in the past, few years, it's just racial issues currently. It's just get big, and it can be heartbreaking. And any story I hear like that, where you don't even notice it, she didn't even know it wasn't an issue. And, being able to be colorblind like that, it's, I wish the next generation would. But, colorblind, it's not necessarily legal. I know there's reasons that's not true either, because everyone's beautiful the way they are. It doesn't matter. But I love that. And I love it.
Yeah. And for me, I took from that story that it's just a reinforcement to the belief that, division is something that's learned and created. Hate is something that's taught, whether through example or actual lessons. And I have a funny story where when I was younger, my father loves to tell the story when we were in a restaurant and I was announcing to our table, I was probably 4 or 5 years old, announcing to the table that when I grew up, I wanted to be a black basketball player. And mind you, not only am I too late for that, but also I'm the shortest person in my family.
Oh, that's funny.
And that was just something that kids, it, like I said, it reinforces the fact that there are things out there that are learned and they are taught. So we need to set better examples.
And even the differences, they can be skin color, they can be size, they can be a person with a scar, a person with birthmarks, a person with a disability, there's so many ways that we are all different.
Mm-hmm.
And to be able to make that is normal and okay, and what's the big deal, is great.
Yes.
That would be wonderful.
Yes. The children are our future. Yeah. All right. Excellent. My story comes from the Good News Network. You guys know that I like that. And it's about a gentleman named Wyatt Chestnut. He graduated high school at West Virginia and Riverside High School in West Virginia. And this young man, here I am pulling on my teacher years, he had perfect attendance from kindergarten to 12th grade. And being a teacher myself, I'm not going to lie, I had set out almost before I had my daughter. There's a good 10 years every year. I was like, this year's the year I'm going to have perfect attendance. This year's the year. It's much harder than one would think to have perfect attendance, not only as a teacher, but definitely as a student, because my brother always says, elementary schools are the cesspool of germs, and it's just one big giant petri dish. So for this young man to make it through his elementary school years and have perfect attendance is a huge accomplishment and says a lot about his immune system. Yes. And then moving through middle school and high school, it's like, holy moly. That means he didn't even cut for senior cut day. Good job, Mr. Wyatt.
Wow.
Yeah.
I see.
And not something that I'm necessarily proud of, but I know that I myself and other teacher friends of mine would always kind of giggle about the kids that had perfect attendance because those kids were usually higher strung, more active, um, and we would laugh and say the parents needed for these children to be in school every single day.
I
So,
don't know, but it seems to me that this generation now too is, I think we, I don't want to say baby them, but that's not the right word, but I think we enable them. How's that? A little more than back in the days when we were younger. So it's really a huge accomplishment as we get into these days. But now, the kids, it seems like, I know I'm raising a granddaughter, and oh, how's her emotional needs? It's a lot more of that.
yeah, well, there's a lot. It's a lot. So yeah. So I was happy to see that um, that Mr. Wyatt graduated with a 4.2 GPA. He was a great student. He was a good athlete and just a good kid. They had a lot of wonderful things to say about him. And then in college, he wants to get into law enforcement and biology. But the biggest thing is, and it immediately came to my mind because my father was a corporate headhunter, the consistency of showing up. That perfect attendance award, which in some people's eyes could seem non important, tells an employer that this gentleman will show up,
Yeah.
and a lot of times that's just what we need to do. We need to be able to show up
Yeah.
and be present. And it's a bit more challenging than one would think.
Yeah. Amen to that.
Challenging than one would think. So
Yeah.
that is our good news story for today. And we're hitting that midpoint. So I know it's a little early, Savio, but why don't we take a break and head to commercial if we can? And then when we get back, we're going to talk about perfectionism. Why? Welcome back. We are live on Be Here Now, the Peaceful Empowerment Work Show, where presence expands perspective and invites in peace. Moving on to our Pathways of Peace segment, we are going to discuss today, which we've touched on already, perfectionism. Why? Now, Janice talked about it a little bit in the meme portion and how it relates to her life and work. And some memes or post on Facebook came to mind when we started talking about this perfectionism. And I saw a friend of mine, Bradley Richardson, posted yesterday that comparison is the thief of joy. And when we are focused on perfection, we're comparing ourselves to something, whether it's an expectation within ourselves that we've created, the idea that we feel is perfect, or something that society has thrown upon us and deemed perfect. So Janice was able to voice, shared her story about her job, where once she started to compare herself and not feel that she was perfect, she began to struggle and it created anxiety. So that right there supports everything that Janice said. It is the thief of joy. And confidence. There's a difference between confidence and cocky. And confidence isn't walking into a room thinking you're better than everyone. It's walking in not having to compare yourself to anyone at all.
It's interesting is, social media certainly has its pros and cons, but it does certainly present a lot of ideals.
Mm-hmm.
The image of women, of course, again, is ideal. The image of life or what to do to have fun. It's just so much thrown at our kids and us about some kind of a perfect world, a perfect self, a perfect image, a perfect body, a perfect. So that is so true, because if you have the only thing you have to compare to, or the main thing you have to compare to, the kids spend a lot of time on the social media, is that image. Really, they're going to have a hard time.
Yes, absolutely. And it's funny because I was thinking of this, and it was like, who even comes up with these guidelines as to what makes you perfect? And you nailed it. Social media, the influencers, the things like that. I thank God on a daily basis that I didn't have all this when I was growing up. Because of me being able to see those societal expectations right in the palm of my hand immediately. And because I was able to grow, I was able to grow up, I was able to make mistakes, I was able to be stupid, I was able to fall and get back up without it being documented on social media and shared with millions of people. We talked, you were discussing earlier about kids these days. And, I would never want to go back and be a kid with the situations that are going on now and the access that kids have now, because that heightened sense of that need to be perfect is in their hands 24/7.
Yeah, I think we had it growing up too, because we certainly had the perfect housewife image. Well, me, when I was growing up, anyways, the perfect little housewife image, the perfect. For me, one of the problems was the Brady Bunch.
Really?
I grew up in a step family with a step family. I had a stepmother, stepsisters, and I grew up watching the Brady Bunch. And you talk about the perfect step family. The only stairs in their house are the stairs up there to your bedroom. The only steps. Oh, the only steps. Yeah, I remember that. I still remember that quote from the show. And growing up, seeing that on TV and seeing what my home was, it was not fun. So you have whatever we had in growing up. Certainly, it wasn't social media, but the image of women. I remember too. I was overweight my whole life.
Mm-hmm.
And there weren't any overweight images on TV. None. Mm-hmm. Now we have some. We're getting some, which is great. There's still problems with images, that's for sure. But it was a totally terrible, disgraceful thing in my life when I was growing up. There was nobody else. And I listened to my stepmother talking. Oh, yeah, did you look at her? Do you see how fat she is? And she'd be talking about people all the time. And, I grew up thinking, okay, so that's what people are saying about me, and it was just not good.
No. So where you got ideas of what a perfect family was and what a perfect body shape was from TV, which was our social media back then.
Yeah. And since it wasn't the greatest childhood, I spent a lot of time shutting down in front of the TV when I was allowed to. That's what I did. Mm-hmm. So, it's carried me, certainly, that need to shut down. Started then. And it started by the same reasons our kids shut down, probably. Mm-hmm. Grandkids.
Yeah. It's a lot. There's a lot of information constantly thrown at us, not just the kids, at us, because we're on social media as well. I mean, we're here doing a podcast. How many podcasts, webcasts are out there that people are paying attention to and listening to? And, we're here to tell you that perfectionism is the cockblock of success and living a happy life, whereas other platforms are still saying this is what it looks like to be perfect. This is what we aspire to be. This is the perfect weight. This is the perfect style. This is the perfect car. This is the perfect lifestyle.
Yeah. The other day, my granddaughter said to me, "I hate my ass." She said ass.
Uh-huh.
And I'm like, what the heck?
Yeah, one of those, where did that come from?
Oh my gosh. Because, from my perspective, she's perfect the way she, not that she has to be perfect, but she's great the way she is. I couldn't imagine looking at her and thinking, boy, she should get a butt job. No way. Oh my gosh.
Yeah. Um, yes, I can remember looking at my daughter and saying, "Whoa, where did that come from?" Yeah.
And so I'm just going to continue because I've got a story for a perfect perfection story for this week. I went camping this week. Oh, camping. Oh, you go camping, campground. We have a camper now. We got a nice one. We get one that's got a room for the kids. Oh, everything's great. We're going to go camping. The ideal. So we go up there this week, and not only did I have to come down back to the house like for 3 days to do things, but I did this terrible perfection job on me, or my image. I have this image of what camping is.
Okay.
So building a fire, doing the marshmallows and roasting and telling campfire stories. The campground we at has a pool. You go to the pool. Oh, there's a golf course thing, mini golf course, and walking the dogs. You brought our dogs. Oh yeah, that's camping, greatest thing. Well, you get up there. My husband's gone for the week because he works out of town, and I'm up there with 3 teenagers. Okay, it is friggin' hot and humid. For us, the hottest humid. I don't know if it's gonna be the hottest humid week for the week or not, but it felt like it. Yes, I have an air conditioned camper. I know, tough life. But so therefore, all I wanted to do is stay in the camper because it's cool. And 3 teenagers, that's pretty much what they wanted too. But I should be doing something different. I should be building a fire at night. I should be make sure we're going out for walks. I should be doing these great things. I've got my grandkids with me, which is a gift to have my grandkids with me. My grandson, I don't get to be with very often. He wanted to come up, and I should be playing a game with him, or I should, I was miserable. I was hot. I was humid. I was miserable. And I'll be darned, I just didn't beat myself up and have a miserable time the whole week because let's face it, I probably caused it and created it, at least for me.
Mhm.
Because I'm like, this is not what it's supposed to be. It's supposed to be something else. It's, I'm supposed to be playing games. I tell you, it was awful. So I did it for me because I felt like I was being a failure. Here's a grandma taking their grandkids camping. Why don't I do something with them? Why don't I play with them? Why don't I do more? And then I also created an environment because I was miserable. Well, I don't know if the kids had fun. I doubt that they did, but they didn't really want to go out either. So I have to, and at one point I said this, it's up to them to create their own experience.
Mm-hmm.
It's not up to me. I don't have to take that on.
Right.
Okay, yes, I want to be this great, perfect, and wonderful grandmother. I'm not going to be. You know what? I'm not. I was hot and miserable.
So the question I'm hearing, Janice, is were you willing to be honest with your grandkids and say, I'm hot and miserable?
I said I was miserable like the 3rd day
Yeah.
because I spent the first 2 days, coming up with excuses why I'm not. And no, I would say it took me probably the 3rd day before I could admit it, before I could let go of that enough to just say, to myself, I said, they're going to create their own experience.
Yeah.
Yes, I maybe I can be part of it, but I'm not all of it.
Right.
And I did try to go out and build a fire, and then my grandson took off and was going to see someone or do something. And 2 times, one night I went out, I got to do this. It's one thing I got to do. The girls don't want to come out, but my grandson does. And both times I went out, he was gone. It was easier to give myself a little bit of slack after that happened because he wasn't there. But, I'm anxious for next week so that I can put myself on vacation. Not worry about the damn dogs who are barking when they shouldn't be barking. And, it'll be a restful week. It wasn't fun. And it was all because I have an image in my mind what I think camping should be. I grew up, actually, we had a camp when I grew up, and we went up camp every weekend, and that was my childhood, and that was my best part of my childhood, going to camp every weekend. And we built fires, and we went swimming, and we would run around and pick things and do things, and it was the best.
Now, so my question is, did the adults lead all of those activities, or was something that the kids went out and did? I mean, other than building the fire.
Well, no, actually, good point, because my parents were not around at all. They were at a camp drinking and partying and playing cards and having fun, and we were building the fires. I learned to build a fire very young and built our own fires, and we built our own we did our own marshmallows and got everything. No, they had zero to do with our experience.
Yes. So you as kids took it upon yourself to do these fun things. You didn't have what was it on the Love Boat? What was Julie McCoy, the cruise director?
Cruise director.
Cruise director.
The Love Boat.
Exactly. You didn't have a cruise director. So when you are camping, it is your vacation too. You're not the cruise director. If there's something the kids want to do, it's their responsibility to tell you. And I'm hearing, and the same goes for you. If there's something that you want to do, it's your responsibility to take the bull by the horns and do it.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, what a thing that was.
But that's perfect. I mean, that is the perfect story. It perfectly demonstrates how you comparing yourself to the idea of camping stole all the joy of you being there with your grandkids.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that's Janice and I were talking about this before the show, and she shared the story, and I was like, this is what we're talking about. True and authentic. We are all still growing and evolving and learning, and awareness is the first key. So you being so aware of what was going on is beautiful, because now you have the opportunity and choice to shift it, should you choose.
And it's interesting is we've been going camping every year for years, and I would just shut down a lot of times. I wasn't present I was not being cruise director. But like this year, I think because I am a little more present, a little more here, I had expectations, which I don't know if I had them before. And I also, fortunately, went back and forth, but I'm able to say at some point saying, I don't have to be responsible for their happiness. No. At one point I was able to, okay, deep breath.
That's beautiful, because it's so true. We are responsible for our own happiness, and perfection is it just invites comparison.
Yeah,
it invites comparison. Savio, can we go to the next slide, please? And that leads right into, each of us represents a wonderfully diverse and unique expression of love. So for us to want to be carbon copies of other people, that takes away from the true essence of us. Janice, you're here with a gift and sole purpose of whatever it is that lights you up. And I know part of what lights you up is you want to be able to help people move forward and heal. And by you sharing your authentic story, you coming here and telling our viewers, I'm still working on this. I am a work in progress. Being authentic and true. That's what helps. Just being real.
One of the things that happened, I think it happened when I was in college, is I got a job, and it was a good job. It made me feel like I was making a difference. And I remember saying to myself, hey, you are special. You can make a difference. So in my mind, my job was what made me special. And it really matched up with this other thing I had, which is, it's what I do. I can do things to make people care about me and to love me. I can be nice to them. I can talk to them. I can bring them things. I can, buy them things. I can take care of them. I believed in my core that I was lovable because of what I did. And carrying that through the job, through that, it's such a lesson to learn now that I can be lovable just because I am. That's still so foreign to me. And that's what you're saying here. And it's like, I don't have to do something special.
Mm-mm,
I don't have to provide this great vacation for my grandkids. I don't
mm-mm.
have to. I still like to give people things, yes, and I mean it just from the heart. But
Right.
it's different, and that's exactly what I think you're trying to say there. And I love that.
That is exactly what's being said. It's not what you do that makes you special, it's who you are. We
Mm.
are all unique, and we all come here to serve in many, many different ways. We're here to love and be loved. And when we can embrace that who we are in this moment is exactly who we need to be, and that presence allows an expanded perspective, gives us choice. And I know when I finally realized that, I'm bound and determined every time to choose the path to peace. Sometimes it's a bumpy path,
Yeah,
because the comparison doesn't just go away. It's something that has been influencing my life for, 50 years or whatever. So to rewire those thought patterns takes repetition and consistency. So it's a matter of reminding yourself over and over and over again. It's not about what's right and perfect that society tells you. It's about what's right and perfect for you.
yay! Thank
Yeah.
goodness.
So think about, all these ways. What are the ways you show up and share your love? Because that's your gift.
Yeah,
People like, you are the gift. What you bring to your family, what you bring to your community, what you bring to the world. And when we can show up true and authentic and not compare ourselves to others, then we can embody the true, full essence of our uniqueness. Because we all deliver in different ways.
mm.
We all deliver these gifts in different ways.
It's so amazing to me. I mean, it's still hard to accept. This part of me now knows that, but there's still that part of me that it's so hard to accept. It's so hard to accept that's true.
And that's why repetition and consistency is so important. And that's why awareness, you being able to come back and share this story about your camping trip this week, it's real. It's real. You didn't stutter. You're telling your truth. And that's what it is. It's your truth. Janice, that's the gift. That's the gift that you're giving to everybody that's watching. Because I know there's somebody out there that's like, preach, girl. That is not a vacation when you got all them kids and you got to do all this stuff and you're taking care of dogs. That is not a vacation. So when you can take a step back and look at it differently and really pick and choose what's important. What's important to you when you have your grandkids together with you? Connection.
Yeah.
And what it looks like. Sometimes it's just sitting in the same room, not even talking. Watching a movie together. I mean, Maddie used to be big on, Mom, will you come watch me play video games when she was younger? And I would just sit in the room and watch. It's about that connection.
Yeah. It's so funny. My grandson, he's gamer, and he'd come visit me. He doesn't come that often, but last time he came, he brought his, I don't know the words, his PS5, and he did this basketball game thing, and it really looks real. It's really impressive. And he ended up having the Celtics, and I used like the Celtics back in the day, but then they stopped winning, and I didn't follow them. But he had him up, and he had this guy who was playing, this JT was his initials, and I don't even remember. But we were watching it together, and then I was like, I like JT because he wasn't full of himself, but he looked like he was trying. I don't know. So I liked him, and I was like, JT. My grandson thought that was so funny. And because of that one experience of my just saying, JT, he calls me up every once in a while and just says, JT, hey, guess the Celtics are playing. And the Celtics won. The Celtics won the NBA. So that's the first thing we did is we found a place that he could show me the highlights of the game because we couldn't watch it because we were camping and it didn't have it. So that was a connection. So That's so true, because we drove down the road where we got internet service good. We watched the highlights of the game together so I could watch JD.
See, that's connection. Beautiful. Absolutely beautiful.
True.
Okay, so I know I've shared that I'm a certified intuitive counselor, and every once in a while, when preparing for the shows, I'll get a message, and this one is a little bit lengthy, but so, and the whole time I was preparing for it, I kept hearing Bob Marley's song. You know, every little thing's gonna be all right. So this is my message to you. Yeah. Okay. So the message for today: perfection is an illusion created in judgment with the intent to separate and divide. This causes both external conflict as well as internal. Perfection creates comparison, which on one hand can invite feelings of superiority and elitism, while on the other hand, self-doubt and poor self-esteem. We are here to remind you that you are absolutely perfect just as you are in this moment. The human experience is about growth and evolution. It's about learning to love yourself and allowing yourself to love and be loved by others. So we challenge you to stop comparing yourself to the perfect standards projected amongst the masses by society and tradition, and instead ask yourself the question, what's right and perfect for you? Love is the common thread that sews us all together as a collective. Our experiences vary based on the lessons we come to learn and whether we choose to learn those lessons under fire or with ease and grace. When you have the awareness to pause, breathe, and look to see the lesson, ease and grace can be your path of choice. You are absolutely perfect just the way you are.
Mm.
So Janice, that was, I mean, your story today was absolutely perfect because you took a step back, you paused, you breathed, and you were able to see that there were lessons.
Thank you, Judy. That's so beautiful. Thank you so much. That's
So well done,
mm.
my friend. Well done. Okay, so we have our end of the show plug from Janice.
Don't forget, we are a 501c3 organization. Donations are tax deductible. So just go to our website, which is peacefulempowermentworks.org. And you can see on the top right-hand side, you've got like the show, you've got donations and so on. In the top, at the very bottom of the first page, it's the donation button again.
Yep.
I want to thank Luana for your wonderful donation. Thank you, Luana. And her answer to you is, oh, it was so easy. So it is easy.
Good.
And feel free. And anyone who donates at least $25, I'd like to give you a T-shirt. There you go. And 20, if it's 50 more, I'll give you a sweatshirt. And I get a Cricut machine and just put them together. And thank you. Thank you. Oh yeah, Michael Heath, great message. More meditation, less social media. That is right on. Thank you. Thanks for the reminder. Yeah, because part of making this transition out of the stress and out of the perfection and into being perfect yourself is being able to have that centering me time.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
And anything, we love you. We appreciate you. Any donations are appreciated if you can. And thanks for being here. Thanks for listening and sharing. And we love being here.
Yeah. Thank you for choosing to be here now with us. We look forward to seeing you next time. And don't forget you're awesome. Thank you, Janice.
Bye, everybody.
Bye, everybody.